Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Okay, so we're ready to start. Welcome to the 2023 People's Mayor Debate, coming to you live from the fabulous Loma Theater. We also want to welcome the people watching at home on our Facebook channel, where there is a live chat happening in the comments section. I am Melissa Hurchin. I'm your moderator. Tonight, we have invited all 5 candidates to our stage, and we have 4 with us tonight. And we'll be asking questions we have personally crowd-fielded from the community. The candidates drew numbers from a hat and are ready to take the stage. So first up, we have Mayor Ravi Basker. Next to the stage, we have entrepreneur and film producer Jim Burleson. And we have City Councilwoman Marianne Chavez. Last but not least, we have former school board member and CFO of Positive Outcomes, J.C. Trujillo. Welcome, candidates. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you all here with us tonight. Each candidate will be asked a question about a topic and will be given 1 minute to respond. I will call on candidates to give a 30-second response. We ask each candidate that when you hear this bell, if you can hear it, to wrap up your statement so we can move forward. We ask the candidates as well as the audience to not interrupt when one of the candidates is speaking. Let's start off with opening statements. You each will have 1 minute. Mr. Mayor, let's start with you first.
Okay, thank you for inviting us. And again, the Loma Theater is a jewel for us. I think the city helped you open it up in 2017 with a $10,000 grant. I am the mayor. We are in lots and lots of projects that if you have any questions about, you can ask me. But again, I'm running to continue the legacy that we've had and the generational projects that we've had that's changed Socorro. And the broadband is one. Highway 60 is going to be another one. I think the municipalization of the electric grid here in the city will be another one. So I would hope that you can listen to what I have to say and vote for me on November 7th.
Jim?
All right, well, I just, first I wanted to thank all the kids from the film and television class that came in. We're teaching a little film and television at the high school right now so we can hire some locals when we shoot all these movies here in Socorro. So the biggest heartache I've had in bringing movies down here to Socorro is I can't hire any local crews. So we got together with the school board and came up with this plan, and now I got some kids out here that are doing some assignments to film some things, and hopefully we're going to be able to transition them into the film community. But you know, I'm running as a guy I just have some ideas. I've been talking so much crap about all the things that could be done and blaming everyone else, and you know, enough people have said, you know what, you got to put up or shut up, and so here I am running. I did think I had some better friends who would have warned me about getting into politics, but I'm gonna come after them later. But I'm invested right now, and I have some really great ideas. I think that we can improve the small town quality that we have without expanding to the point where we no longer have the community that we've all grown to love. We all choose to live here, right? And I have some ideas that are going to really improve the quality of life for what it is that we have here in Socorro.
Marianne?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you to the audience for having us here tonight. My name is Marianne Chavez Lopez, and I am your first female candidate for the mayor for the city of Socorro. I have 20-some plus years of experience with the with the El Camino Real Housing Authority, and I also am a current city councilor. I too, as everyone else, would like to bring change to the city of Socorro. Economic development, different things within the city, our drug situation that we have, just different things that I would like to bring forward. Thank you.
And JC.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody who came together to put this on. This is a great opportunity. My name is J.C. Trujillo. I do appear on the ballot as Juan J.C. Trujillo. I was born and raised right here in Socorro, so fourth generation Socorro native. Graduated from Socorro High, class of 2003. I do have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and administration. I did serve on the school board from 2015 to 2019, accomplishing many things with my fellow board members. I did join Positive Outcomes Executive Team in 2017, where I still work today. I have completely remodeled our daycare center and put it in our early childhood education center, as well as started our family advocacy center, where we support at-risk youth and families throughout Socorro, Catron, and Sierra counties. I am running for mayor because I believe that I have the knowledge and experience needed to move Socorro on to bigger and better things. I ask for your vote on November 7th. Vote Juan J.C. Trujillo. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, so candidates, tonight our questions were completely community sourced. I will have one from myself later on. But when going through the questions, we noticed quite a few remarks pertaining to rumors about the campaigns, as well as a few personal attacks. Prior to this debate, we reached out to each one of you and asked if we could have a clear the air moment. Each one of you agreed and were okay with this. So we stated we'd like to give each one of you time to clear up any misinformation that could be holding the voters back from choosing you as their next mayor. So, with no rebuttals allowed, each candidate will be given a 2-minute space to dispel the rumors so we can move on and focus on the issues. This is completely voluntary. Would anyone like to go first? And don't feel like you have to.
I'm not sure exactly. You want us just to confess, or what is it that you, what is it you
Well, if there's-
ask us the questions? I mean, I think one of mine was, am I healthy? And you can see I'm alive, I'm doing well. My wife Ati's out there, so I can turn around and show you my health. I was quite ill last year, had a ruptured appendix, but I'm doing fine now. It's been a year almost to the day of Halloween. The other rumor is I've been mayor for 33 years. What have I done? Well, I think you can see around the city what we've done and what we're going to do, and economic development and jobs and making sure your family's safe. We want to make sure that your quality of life in Socorro is good, that you have things that you can do, and that your cost of living is low. We have the lowest gross receipts tax in the state, I think. Our property taxes are the lowest. City still hasn't imposed all the property tax it could. We try to keep our utilities low. So those are the things that I still continue to do. I'm very specific as to what we've done and what we plan to do in the future. And those 3 things that I talked about, the highway, the broadband, and municipalization of the electric grid, that's something that we really want to do. And I don't know if that's a rumor, but that's what we're going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would anybody else like to say anything before we begin?
The question that I got asked to address was the fact that in 2007 I was attacked by 5 guys, all armed, videotaping the event to try to immortalize themselves on social media at the time. I was able to reach my pistol. I shot and killed the main attacker, and from then on, there was a huge question about my integrity as a human being, which it blew me away, because you know what we don't do is we don't ask rape victims how they would have handled their attack, but instead I'm asked to present this as if I have some kind of pride in the event. But what ended up happening is I was attacked. I was targeted by a group of drug dealers, and thank goodness I was able to reach into my console after being beat to the ground for what probably was 15 minutes, with 8 independent eyewitnesses that said they were there to kill me. I was able to reach my pistol, and I shot and killed the man, but he didn't die. I shot him point blank in the chest. He ran to his car. We find out later he was hopped up on 6 illegal medications. They dumped his body at the hospital in a rental car with ammunition for 6 different guns stuck in the car, and they all took off. They didn't find him for 6 months, the other 4 guys. The state police officer said he would have never filed charges, that it was this is a direct quote, "You were the victim of a violent crime that ended poorly for the perpetrator." Okay? So what happened is I had a situation where they were going to kill me. I was able to defend myself. I shot back and I don't miss. All right? So when I decided I was going to run for office, it was because I have a bunch of people high up there in Santa Fe trying to take away our Second Amendment rights. New Mexico was the freest state in the country 6 years ago. We were 100%, for the 100 years, conservative Democrat controlled until this happened up in Santa Fe. Now they're trying to take away our Second Amendment rights. So yes, I absolutely shot and killed somebody, and I chose my children over theirs, and I'm a little bit offended to the fact that I have to answer this question. We don't talk about battered women. We don't ask them to start their conversations that way, but here we are. So I was the victim of a crime, and I handled it.
Thank you, Jim. And just to make clear, we did not insist that anybody answer these questions. We did approach each one through Messenger and let them know, hey, this is the questions we're getting from the public. And I feel if you dispel rumors, because some of them were pretty nasty, they were asking these questions. And I felt each one has a story to tell, and they have the right to use the stage to defend their position. So Marianne or JC?
My question was that, that I had misused funds of COVID funds to buy trucks and lawnmowers and different things for the housing authority instead of repairing the apartments that we currently manage. As some of you might know, when you get COVID funds or any type of funding through HUD, through any other government agency, those funds are ear tagged. So the funds that we used were not for the apartments because they were ear tagged for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher. So that's how we used them. The other monies that we got was some for Socorro Village, but all of that was for office supplies. So that's what we were used for.
Thank you. JC?
Yes, thank you. So my question was around qualifications and a lot of the false information that has been circulating and a lot of the distractions. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about what my qualifications are, what my history is. Is this? Yeah, there you go. So what I can tell you is I am the most qualified candidate to be mayor. I'm young and healthy. I've been in Socorro all of my life. I have the knowledge, education, background. I did serve on the school board from 2015 to 2019. While I was on the school board, I built a new elementary school. I managed budget cuts with a balanced budget and all clean audits. The Boyer Stadium, 80 Castaneda Boyer Stadium, and track and field, that was under my leadership. Implementing standards-based grading and curriculum for all the elementary students who funnel into the same middle school. Many more accomplishments while I was on the school board. I do have very strong relationships throughout the state. I have very strong relationships locally with whether it's through law enforcement or district attorneys or the mental health community and employers. I have built very strong relationships with state and federal individuals, from the Attorney General's office to state treasurer to state auditor, as well as our youth senators and representatives. So I do stand here today to tell you that I am very qualified. I have accomplished many things. I've worked very hard within our community, and I'm very proud of the accomplishments that I've made. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the candidates. Thank you so much. And so let's dive in. So first, we're going to start with a question regarding the Chamber of Commerce. Many Socorroans are unaware that indeed there is an existing Chamber of Commerce, but they do not have a building, a website, or regular meetings. They basically exist on paper. One of our community members stated, "The Chamber of Commerce is the heart and soul of any community's economy. Having no chamber or a weak one is like having a church that doesn't have missions or a train with no tracks." As mayor, how do you plan on working with our Chamber of Commerce, or do you have another way of attracting and supporting businesses in Socorro's economy? Marianne, let's start with you.
Okay, so I feel that we should have a Chamber of Commerce. This brings business owners together. It can work with MERGEDA, which is the economic development here in Socorro, and it runs the Southwest. We should be able to have the, we should be able to get the Chamber of Commerce. It's a very good asset for bringing in new partnerships, bringing in new businesses, helping the old business owners or the current business owners have a place to communicate with each other. So I feel very strongly about that.
Mr. Mayor, you've had some kind of a funny relationship with the chamber. I don't know how to put it, but I've spoken with one of the members that stated there was some issues between you all. So what are your plans with the chamber, or do you have another route?
Well, let's get this straight. The Chamber of Commerce is a private entity. It is not a municipal entity. The city administration was subsidizing the chamber for almost 26 years of my mayorship to about $60,000 to $70,000. We had several episodes where the credit cards that were with the executive director of the chamber were misused. We then decided, as a city council and the mayor, that we would help the chamber, but it'd be on invoicing and not on just a flat check that we would give them. Again, chamber is a private organization. Giving them tax dollars, they have to be accountable. They were not accountable, and slowly the chamber began to dissolve because the businesses did not support what the chamber was doing. The city not supporting them, but the businesses were not supporting them by not paying dues, by not coming to the meetings, and not getting an executive director who was full-time. So that's the facts of the history of the chamber. And they're welcome to reform. They're welcome to come back to the budget committee and ask for monies that they would spend on economic development or in advertising the city using tourism dollars. There's different pots of money that we can support different entities with. And that money is the tourism money that we get, which is a 5% tax. So the chamber dissolved on its own. And some of the problems that they had, we didn't make a big public thing about them, but the executive director misspent that money. And I don't know if she was prosecuted or not, but she should have been, because that was tax dollars.
Thank you. JC, thoughts?
I think that this has to be a very collaborative effort. When we put an economic development plan together, we can put what those expectations are, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce or the Hispano Chamber of Commerce. There are there are a few individual entities out there that do focus on economic development, but we need to have an economic development plan and an overall strategic plan that the city is going to follow. I think that's the big thing. What are those deliverables that entity is going to provide?
Jim?
So I think that the city government's responsibility in that would have been just to pick up the slack on what was missing. And I think that there's opportunities at City Hall. Right now we have like one of the coolest art galleries that I've seen in Socorro for a long time, just when you walk through the halls in there, and it feels like you don't have access. Like everyone is making sure you don't come into their offices and stuff, so you don't get to go see all that really great art that's in there. And I think that, I remember back in the day when Mike Chosnick was in there and he was doing the building inspector stuff, I used to have to go in there all the time, and I could check out everything that was in there. We had Steve Pierce's office was in the City Hall. I think that we have a really great opportunity if we could capitalize on bringing the community together and utilize the infrastructure that we already have. We have a building. We don't need to pay rent. We've got some offices that are available that we could use to do the economic development side. I know that City Council is working hard right now with the mayor to try to pull some things together for Socorro. I think that if we could consolidate what all that stuff is within City Hall, it'll give people greater access to the folks that are working with them, on the utility bills, or maybe they have a problem. Just having access to your city government, I think, is a really important tool for us. It gives us an opportunity then to if somebody has an idea, maybe they want to start a business, maybe they know that they can just walk in and say, hey, let's have a chat about this. And if we can empower the community, that's where we need to be.
Thank you. Mayor Basker, you have pushed for the city to acquire the electric utility from SEC without a vote from the taxpayers. And in your proposal, you state residents will see a decrease in electric bills. Under your tenure, however, rates for all city utilities, gas, trash, water, and sewer, have increased substantially. How do you reconcile the promise of lower rates with the reality of increases in all other utilities?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure where you're getting your information, but our utility rates are the lower and the middle tier of all cities our size. The gas, the water, the sewer, you just have to look that up. Our water rates are $2.30 for 1,000 gallons of water. You go to Santa Fe, it's $5 for 1,000 gallons of water. In Albuquerque, it's over $3.20. So the next thing you asked is about the utility, the municipal electric utility. If you listen to the CEO who came all the way down in his turbojet from Tri-State in Denver to be on the radio, he tried to get every one of the counselors to come and meet with him, and none of the counselors would. 2/3 of your electric bill comes from the cost of electricity that Socorro Electric Co-op pays to Tri-State. That's 8 cents. Now, I'm going to get technical. 8 cents a kilowatt. I told you about the water rates per 1,000. I'm telling you about the 8 cents a kilowatt is what Tri-State charges the electric co-op. I can go out, and they actually sold Gallup electricity for 3.5 cents a kilowatt about 6 years ago when Continental Divide went to supply Gallup. We can get electricity, now remember, that's 2/3 of your cost is electric cost from Tri-State. I can get electricity for 4.5 cents a kilowatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's it? You don't want
I'm
to
sorry.
hear more about kilowatts?
We could probably go back and
Okay, but
forth
I'm
a
just
little
telling
bit
you,
on this issue.
but I think your question was something about utility rates and them being high. I'm not sure where you get that information. We are not. We're in the middle to the lower tier of towns our size. Now, January and February was an anomaly, and the city put in $1 million to bail out people for the increase in gas rates. So they were terrible. They were very, very bad.
Thank you. Mary Ann, you're on the council. Do you support the mayor's endeavors with this?
I support it to a point. So when the council and the mayor, when the council voted to bring the new electricity, I asked the mayor, I know that you're doing the industrial park, you're doing New Mexico Tech, you're going to do those first. But what happened, how long before the public does that? How long, how long before we get those types of rates? And what he told me was a year or two. That concerns me because a year or two out, is the electricity through the electric co-op going to increase to the people, especially our elderly, people that are on a fixed rate? That's what concerns me.
Mayor Basker, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond to that. You have 30 seconds to respond to Mary
Let me
Ann.
tell you, Tri-State is losing billions of dollars of electric sales in Denver, in Montrose Delta, in La Plata. Those rates aren't going up, are they? If they lose the city rates, they have to go to the PRC, and they've already lost to the city of Socorro and New Mexico Tech on their increase in rates. And so they can't just raise their rates. They have to go to PRC and account for the increase in rates. So it may be, you have to be realistic. It's not going to happen overnight. But in the long term, 25 years, generational change, we will not only get the revenue that the co-op is sending to Denver, we will also get lower electric rates. And you can just talk to your friends in Albuquerque and find out how much they're paying for electricity compared to us here. Very simple. But it's not going to be overnight, I'll tell you that. They cannot raise rates, though, unless they go to a Public Regulatory Commission to get those rates increased, and they lost last time.
Okay, thank you. Jim, what do you know about this?
Well, so what I know is that if we do municipalize the electric co-op here, and the argument was that we're going to get $1 million in revenue from generating the money directly through the city. But the problem with that is that we have to spend $5 million on poles, right, when we pull the co-op out. And then you know, our rates right now, we're looking at, I mean, we're lower to mid in all the state of New Mexico. And what's keeping our rates there is the PRC, right? So we municipalize this, and we no longer are regulated by the PRC. So what happens if we get a mayor that doesn't have the integrity that Ravi has in office, right? And that their decision then is to let's increase everybody's rates, because what are they going to do? There's a monopoly. They own the polls, they own everything else. What I want to do is I want to make sure that we don't overextend ourselves as a city. I mean, let's first get some clean drinking water, right? Let's fix our busted water lines. Like, I think that the infrastructure of our utilities is such that we could spend that $5 million instead of the polls. We could spend that on getting our water up to snuff, and then at some point maybe we do go back to it. But what we've proven to companies like Tri-State is that the city has the motivation to change things if they screw us up, right? We can stop renewing their contract. We can go and municipalize it, but we don't have to do it right now. And frankly, we're just not ready. I think that we elect a board at the co-op, and hopefully that board speaks for us. They're our neighbors. So that's what we need to be doing.
Thank you. JC, what do you think? Do you think the city's ready to take over the co-op?
No, I think there's a lot of mixed information. There's a lot of bad information. Just doing my own research and looking at what the city has compared, what they're looking at with Kit Carson up north. Kit Carson right now is charging 18 cents per kilowatt hour on the residential side. Socorro Electric right now is at 15. That is high. There are industrial rates. There are things that we can be doing to make this better. To improve. And the reality is Socorro doesn't use a whole lot of electricity. We use 10 megawatts. And so do we have the buying power that Albuquerque or even Los Lunas or Belen have? No, we don't. We don't have the quantity right now. And so I think there's a lot of things that we have to look at. I don't think that's the direction we need to be going. I think that there's a lot of other things that we need to be focusing on. You know, since 2016, the city's spent about $300,000 in looking at this, but yet we have the police department who has black mold and mushrooms growing in the offices. So I think we have money that needs to be spent elsewhere, and we need to be focusing on making our city better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next question. Businesses in Socorro are having a hard time finding qualified workers, even the city is hiring retirees. That's not my quote. How can our town motivate citizens to participate in the economy who are fourth-generation welfare recipients? And how can our town encourage a more competitive workforce? Jim, let's start with you.
I think the first thing we need to do is we need to recognize that we have a limited supply of quality jobs, right? So we have built up the fast food hotel industry in Socorro, and what we haven't done is we haven't cultivated an environment where we do some manufacturing. So my entire game plan as mayor for the only 4 years I plan on being mayor is I'm going to build a lumber plant where we're building renewable building materials out of hemp pulp that we have 30,000 acres living in Socorro County. We just start building supplies and shipping them out. And now we're building houses completely solar, right? That's $100,000 a year jobs, 100 of them. I think that's a great opportunity and a great start. And it's not requiring some massive college degree. Then we're going to build a water park up there. The mayor and I have been talking about doing this for a long time, and I hope it doesn't come across insincere, but like he's been an advocate for increasing our entire entertainment of Socorro. I think that we need something that we can do. I'm going to build a water park, a full-on like Wet and Wild Schlitterbahn water park. It's going to allow people to start from the lowest end and work all the way up to the top. If we can do some economic development in that range, we can grow our work base off of quality jobs. We have a CTE program at the high school. We're doing welding. We're doing film and television. We're doing some good things here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor?
I just want to correct JC. We're not using 10 megawatts. There's at least 30 megawatts in the city. And Mr. Burleson, we have never been cited for bad water in the city. Clean water is what we produce for everybody. We had a well go down. There was a problem with that, but there's been no problem with the clean water.
Okay, the question is how we can generate a better workforce.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
To get a better workforce, you know, our unemployment rate is at 4.5% in this county. The city entry rate is $15 an hour. We at my medical office, we're at $27 an hour for medical assistants. So there are good jobs in the city. We can't find good candidates. That's the job of the school board, to get apprentices and getting people that are seniors in the half-day program like they used to, internship in different businesses. I think that's very important. But the municipal government can't be everything for everybody. You know, we can try to bring jobs and good quality manufacturing to the city if we have good utilities, good rates, and we give them a place in the industrial park that's cheap for them to get into. So I can only tell you, I can't do everything for everybody, and there's a huge economic boom, and to try to get trained personnel, that's throughout the United States. That's not just in Socorro. New Mexico Tech has 150 openings right now, 150. And they're having trouble filling those with qualified personnel, and they're high-paying jobs.
And JC, your thoughts?
So I think there's a lot to be said here. First and foremost, we have to build collaboration, strong collaborations with the schools. The schools are doing great things with their CTE program right now. They're building jobs or training jobs within the students. We also need to be training jobs for our adult population. We have 60% of our population that is below the poverty line. We have 150 jobs at Tech. We have 50 jobs right now posted with NRAO with their next gen VLA that they cannot fill. I plan to bring in a development, division for development and innovation, who's gonna focus on what those job openings are and what those training needs need to be. Right now we have jobs with DICA Pearl and A1 Quality that they need CDL drivers. We don't have a CDL program, but when we're talking about small businesses like A1 that may not be able to expense the CDL program, those are the things that I think we need to be bringing here.
Marianne?
I think we also have to use the resources that we have. We have the Workforce Solutions that have different programs within Socorro County. They have training programs. They have hard quality for the jobs. They don't have enough training. They can train their employees. They can train different people. We belong to the workforce where they come in and they give us different people to train. So as long as we can get the resources that we already have, I think that could be a good thing.
Thank you. Okay, this next question, we're going to start with the mayor. Remember, this is not my question. This is a quote. My question is for the mayor, but I would like to know how the other candidates think. Why so many cannabis places? I partake in it, but I never wanted to live in Amsterdam. We are lacking the strip clubs, but are those next? This has been an easy way for the mayor to bolster the economy, and it sounds like if he had it his way, there'd be cannabis shop next to Nusenda and one in the old furniture rental store. Isn't this sending a mixed message to these kids living here?
The state, against my advice, legalized marijuana and marijuana shops. I'm a free enterprise person. I don't try to job own people who are out of business. If they want to come to Socorro, open up a shop, pay the rent, do it in the zoning. Now, Aaron Rents is something that wasn't going to have a place because of the school. They were trying to get that building, and that's the only building that's empty in town. Everybody else has been bought up by the cannabis business. Cannabis is a business. It's legal. I'm not in the business of picking winners and losers. If that's what they want to do. Now, if the state says I can only have 7 in town, just like they do the liquor licenses, we'll go with that. But right now, it's legal for a business to come in and do cannabis. I don't have a problem with that if that's what they're doing, as long as they're not breaking the law.
Marianne?
I feel that we can, of course we want the revenue, of course we want all of that, but I feel that we need to put a limit, maybe 7, 8 instead of, if not, that's all we're ever gonna be. So I think putting a limit, maybe doing a resolution through the city, I don't know if that can be done. I can ask, but I feel that we have to put a limit on it. If not, that's all we're gonna have.
JC?
So there are a lot of local controls that the state allowed during the legalization of cannabis. We have 9 cannabis shops in Socorro, and the issue that we're running into is those that are using recreational cannabis are dipping in beyond their disposable income. They're using the income that's for their rent, their utilities. They can't really afford the things that they're doing. So I think the effect that it's had is not really the best in the economy. I know we've had some increased taxes, because it's not just gross receipts, it is taxed at a different level, and at a much higher rate than medical cannabis. So there's a lot of things that the city can be doing with local control that the city did, that the state did allow.
Jim?
So I'm a free market guy. I think that we should let every one of them open up, and then when they end up cannibalizing themselves, we have a lot of really great remodeled buildings that we could stick a new Christmas store in. We could put a clothing shop over here. We can, like, let's do something. I'm just saying, like, what we don't have is a furniture store in this town, right? I'm gonna move right into that next cannabis shop, and we're gonna put a furniture store in there as soon as they go out of business. But I think that as a free market society, we need to recognize that people have the freedom to do these things. And I know I don't want to be defending Ravi all night, but he has nothing to do with it. He was so anti-marijuana and legalizing stuff, like just understanding what it did on a microcosm. So sorry, man. Sorry you have to deal with that. But
What it did to my kids. I mean, absolutely.
it's a horrible thing, but I think that what we do is we recognize that they're putting money into the economy. Let's let them do it, and then we'll move in and put something cool.
Okay. Let's move on. JC, we'll
It's your
start.
question. It's your questions.
JC, here's another question. Each day, I thank God for my city. We are all very blessed with the physical beauty of a mountain, the colorful sunrises and sunsets, the Rio Grande. With this said, I find myself asking God, why can't our little city flourish with a more positive culture? Everywhere I look, I see graffiti, trash, old signs from businesses long ago, empty lots. I try to focus on the positive, but in all honesty, I would never invite anyone to Socorro to visit me. What will the next mayor do to bring out the very best in this neglected city?
Well, I think it's a lot of it is relationships. The other thing is as we start to develop jobs and we start to develop our workforce and people start to have more of a disposable income, the effect of that is people are going to spend more money, and there's going to be more of the attractions that will come to Socorro. The other thing is a lot of these businesses that are dark or the properties that are dark in our commercial sector aren't owned by individuals that are from the city, and so they don't necessarily see those. So we're really going to have to enforce city ordinances that are already there. We need to make sure that our zoning committee is making sure that they're recommending new ordinances or things that we can enforce, such in other cities, vacant commercial lots pay a monthly fee or a quarterly fee for having it vacant. And so the reality is you want to make sure that those buildings get occupied.
Thank you. Jim?
So that was my idea all along, is to any buildings that are left unrented are going to have to pay a fee for maintenance, and it's going to, right now, empty buildings that are owned by investors, it's actually cheaper for them to leave them empty than to rent them out to somebody and have to redo the HVAC in it or whatever. I've tried to rent every empty building on California Street for various businesses, and every one of them are asking more money than if I went to Albuquerque and was renting the same size building. They don't want to rent those buildings. We need to make sure that they are paying our community for those things. So I also think that to get people moving into Socorro that are going to stay in Socorro, let me answer these questions, you guys. So if you guys are going to be moving
We just need to have time for the rest of our questions.
I
so
get it, but
keep
you're not
on with
letting
it.
us answer any of them, so it doesn't make any sense for us to even get these questions if we can't answer them. So I think that to build our economy, to be able to put some things, we need local businesses to be able to benefit from local consumers, and I think that the city has some opportunity to fix that.
Marianne?
I feel the same way. I feel that property owners that are like investors and stuff, I think we should even put a tax, do a different tax table for them in order for them to make sure that they are keeping up with their with their properties, because a lot of these properties, they're not being kept, they're not doing anything. So I think putting an extra tax on them should work.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm not taxing anybody. I'm proud of this city. I don't know what that question's coming from. I had 7 people from Iceland, my wife's home country, visit here. They loved it. They loved the changing of the trees. They loved to go down to the Bosque del Apache. They wanted to see the VLA. They went to the church over here, which is unbelievable. I'm sorry, I don't get it. I've been here 50 years. I chose to come here. We stayed here. We raised 5 children here. I am proud of this city, and not just because I'm mayor, but you know, I'm a doctor here too, and I have absolutely no compunction in asking people to come to Socorro. So I don't know what they're talking about.
New Mexico leads the country in pedestrian deaths. Many residents in town, especially those without cars, would like to or must bike or walk to conduct their errands, but face infrastructure hostile to pedestrians and bicyclists, such roads with no shoulder, no bike lanes, glass and nails in the shoulder and all over the sidewalks, and high car speeds along main thoroughfares. This is especially tough for families in Socorro who do not own or cannot drive a car, and university students living in Socorro to attend tech without a car. How would you make biking and walking safer throughout the city of Socorro, specifically along California, Otero, and Spring Streets? Jim, let's go to you.
So the first thing that I was asked about when I announced I was going to run for mayor is, why are there no street lights on the back roads? Like, my wife goes for a walk when we drop the kids off for wrestling, and every one of those streets are pitch dark. And so, you know, I called the city and I said, well, what do we do? And they said, well, call the co-op. So I called the co-op and they said, well, call the city. So I figured out that the answer is that both people are going to have to communicate. The city pays for it and the co-op goes and installs it, right? So I think street lights are going to be a big factor. I think we need to fix a bunch of the potholes. If you go down any of the roads on the way to tech, you're going to find out there's some infrastructure issues that need to be addressed, some roads and things like that. But I think that the number one thing is the mayor should probably be proactive in putting those things in place. So, like, if I'm mayor, I'm going to make that a priority to make sure that it's safe to walk down the streets, that the streets are going to be good to walk down, and you know, that's what I think is going to help.
Hey, Marianne, any plans to make better sidewalks and shoulders? And
I think we're beginning to. We have a new project called Highway 60, and we're going to put bike lanes. We're going to redo those roads. So I think that doing that and getting more money to do the outside the outside roads like Otero Street, down California Street, Protos Street, all of those, they need to be worked on. And I think just keep on applying for the money, and getting this new project that we're doing with Highway 60 is going to solve a lot of our problems.
thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next question. We have a lot to go through here, and I just want to make sure we can get to all of them. So this is my question. We had a situation yesterday, and I wrote it out, and I'm going to read it. So yesterday, a homeless man was having an episode in front of the Loma Theater. A guest who was waiting outside, who was also an autistic student, came inside and was very afraid, asked us to give him a safe place to wait. We called the police, who came, but 10 minutes later, the homeless man returned, only to have another episode, this time in the middle of the street. The police, who we adore and we love and we think they're doing a fantastic job, we had to call them again. 20 minutes later, my husband and I, with our 8-year-old daughter in tow, made an errand to Dollar Tree, only to pull into the parking lot and find that the same homeless man was out front pulling trash out of the trash can and throwing it at customers coming out the door. We didn't even get out of the car, and we didn't call the police because we had called twice already. And so we just went to Walmart. And then upon leaving Walmart, he was walking down 6th Street, still having an episode. We returned to Dollar Tree, where the manager there, she was just about in tears. I talked to her about the situation, and she told me that the homeless issue it's tearing their store apart. She said they had stolen $40,000 worth of merchandise in 1 year, that they're finding needles, some of them full, on their shelves, and they're smoking fentanyl in the bathroom. So what can be done about this homeless issue that a lot of us business owners are facing, and so are people around town? Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, no, I'm sympathetic with what you're saying. My thing is basically, where do we put the homeless people instead of taking them to jail and have some shelter in place? But then again, what that generates is more homeless people, in my opinion. We had a large homeless population over on the other side of the Loma Vista apartments that we had to clean out. We've had them under the underpasses, and we have them in every store. I'm at a loss as to what to do. It's a very difficult question. I've asked the police department to ask them to move along if they're out there with a sign. As to what to do with them after that, we support Puerto Seguro, we support the food program, but until we get a place, and Mary Ann's done a great job in putting together a unit that's going to be for the locals, not for people coming from the outside that are homeless. But they have other issues, and I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that.
Thank you for your honesty. We appreciate it. JC?
So I think this goes directly to a lack of services. So a lack of place that they can go, a lack of place that can assist with this. That's an acute issue. And really being able to hold the hospital accountable. I've had many instances where these individuals are having an episode in there, and they are showing acute symptoms in there, not to the level where they need to be transferred. That is one issue. The other issue is, where are they going to go to get their addiction service or their addiction services? So homeless is a result of many different things that are happening within their life. And so just saying, okay, well, we're going to just support the homeless shelter. Well, the shelter has to have services to offer to them. We have to have those services within the community. So that has to be talked about. We have to have people at the table, and we have to have a committee that's going to really address this issue and provide some solutions. The other thing is we have to have a tough on crime administration. We have to say, okay, yes, if they're harassing patrons, if they're causing issues for businesses, that is a crime, and it needs to be acted upon.
Thank you. Mary Ann?
And I feel the same way, because they are at different businesses, they do, but a lot of times it's their mental health that doesn't let them move on, that doesn't let them get a place. The place that we're going to build is a 32-unit apartment complex with the services within the facility. We're hoping to get that going here in the next month or so and have it built to help some of these people. At the same time, it is tough on crime. But with the way it is in Santa Fe, the catch and release, we can do that all day long. But until we change the laws in Santa Fe, there's no way that we can change anything else, because they're just going to do the catch and release. They're going to be here and there. So until we do that and change it at the upper level, there's nothing that really the city can. I mean, there is stuff that we can do, is arrest them every little while. But I think getting the services and getting them to where they can live in a home is most important.
Thank you. Jim, you're known to go to Santa Fe and fight. Would you go to Santa Fe and fight to change the laws for the homeless?
Oh, absolutely. So I think that the biggest thing that we need to do here locally is that we need to stop letting people off the hook because there's nothing we can do. I think that as an administration, we need to make sure that every time you see somebody with a shopping cart, they stole that. Pick them up, take them to jail. Every time you see them acting like a fool, take them to jail. If you have to overload that jail where they have to call Santa Fe and get help, that's what we do. We stop giving these people excuses, okay? They're talking about, I'm addicted to something. I got an illness. Sure, you got an illness, but would you do that in front of your mom? No, then it's not an addiction. It's a choice, all right? We've got to be tough on crime so that we can take care of the people that want to get help. Nobody's going to cure addiction that does not want to get cured. We need a 28-day inpatient facility. We need an outpatient facility. But we need to make sure that our officers are picking up everybody who commits a crime, from graffiti to broken glass to acting a fool out in the street. They need to pick them up, throw them in jail. When we see them again, we throw them back in jail for doing the same thing. Stop giving people outs. Make Santa Fe answer the phone.
Thank you. Okay, a person wrote to us and stated their neighbor is a drug dealer. They don't want the activity in their neighborhood, so they called the police. When the police arrived, They spent an hour having a conversation, and nothing came out of the call. Allegedly, drugs are being sold there to this very day. A store owner told us he filed charges against an individual that stole over $300 worth of goods. However, the arresting officer never filed the paperwork. Neither did he show up on the day of court, so all charges were dropped against the thief. What can be done to hold Socorro Police Force to the responsibilities they swore to uphold when they took the oath and accepted the position as protectors and defenders of Socorro? JC?
Thank you. So all it is, well, it's not all it is, but the big thing is expectations. What is the administration's expectation to make sure that they're fighting this? But the big thing is making sure that they have the tools, resources, and training to fight these things. Going after those that are trafficking, you have to have a specialized training, you have to have a specialized unit that goes after this. Going after narcotics traffickers is not something that you can just go to the police academy, become a patrolman, and go do that. We have to support our law enforcement with the training so they can, one, meet the expectations that we're asking them to, but also they have the ability to move up within their own career. It's not just a big gap from patrolman to supervisor within the police department. We need a detectives unit and we need a narcotics unit.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, JC, your dad was the chief of police under me, and he did a great job. I think the city police is doing a great job. I'm not sure where this rumor came from, that they did not file anything. We have undercover police. We do buys. We put them in jail. They're gone before the morning starts. You know, this catch and release, that's against Santa Fe. There's no bail. That law was also passed, that you don't have to pay, you don't have to have bail to get out of jail. So those are the things that are hampering us from getting these people that are selling fentanyl, that have narcotics that are even harder than fentanyl, but fentanyl is the worst thing right now. And they have guns. We have filed against them. We have cases against them. They're out the next day. That's what's happening with our police department. It's not a matter of training. It's very easy to catch these people. They have 20 cars in front of their house. We get a call. We go do a buy. We get the buy. We take it to the judge. The DA tries to prosecute them, but before they're even in jail the next morning, the next shift, they're already out. So this catch and release has got to be changed. And the bail, they've got to come up with bail. And I know it's hard for people who are doing nonviolent crimes and things like that to stay in jail and have to pay bail. But the bail law that the legislature let go was something that did not help us with this problem.
Jim, how would you hold the police force accountable, help them to do their job?
I don't think that the police aren't doing their job. I think that they're just discouraged right now. I think that they're arresting people 2 and 3 times. I just got to get them to the point where they recognize that the city appreciates that and just arrest them 2 or 3 more times. Every time they commit a crime, arrest them, take them to jail, make the judges make a decision, because they have the ability to hold people if they're going to cause a problem. They have the ability to make the final decision, yes, this person is a problem. But again, it is all Santa Fe, and if you guys voted for Michelle Lujan Grisham, this is 100% a problem that is caused up there in Santa Fe. They're trying to crush our state on purpose.
Marianne?
I feel the same way. It's the catch and release. It's the no bond that is not letting the police department do what they need to do. I mean, we have a good police force. I think training is, even though they are trained, I think more training is going to help them. I think that also giving them the tools that they need. Without the tools that they need, they can't move forward. But I think beginning at Santa Fe, I think that's where we need to start our march over there to make sure that they know that the catch and release and the other stuff's not working for the state.
Can I have some rebuttal?
Sure.
So yes, we do need to fix the catch and release, but we also need to fix a lot of the broken relationships here in Socorro. I can tell you right now that the criminal complaints are filed, but there's a huge lack of communication between law enforcement and the district attorney's office. There is a method to keep individuals incarcerated. It's called pretrial release, and there's a way to do it, and it's not being utilized, but there has to be a strong collaboration between law enforcement and the DA's office, because the DA is the one that has to file it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next question. Just frankly, I'm frightened for the future of Socorro. I see more and more young people with no respect for themselves and no pride in their family or community. A year ago, a young man brought a gun to a basketball game. We all thought the police was taking care of the matter, but the same young man was sitting behind me 3 nights later at another venue. A drive-by was committed by a local teen, and he was released to family members. It's like these kids have no consequences. What can be done so they think twice before acting out to preserve their safety and ours? Jim?
So, again, I think we're going to find that it is statewide legislation that's creating these problems. However, a solution in Socorro is to give them options. So what I have learned over the years that I've been doing things is that if they have a real consequence, and it's not going to be something that we can instill, like we can't spank them to get them to think right. But if we have something incredible for them that they could lose if it doesn't go their way, then it gives them an incentive to not act that way. If we have a really great opportunity, maybe they're going to get to work with the dolphins, and maybe they're going to get to swim with manta rays at the aquarium we're going to build here in Socorro, but they can't do that if they're in trouble. They're going to act right. So I think that we have an opportunity locally to give these kids an incentive to do better, because we're frankly not allowed to spank them anymore. And let me tell you, I got spanked a lot as a kid, and I don't know if it helped me, but I definitely didn't give up when I knew I had to do well to play football. When I had to go wrestle, if I screwed that up, I wasn't going back.
Thank you. JC?
So I think there's a few things with this. One, up until recently, probably about 6 months ago, I also thought that this was going to be legislation in Santa Fe. We could only use the state's juvenile detention center. Actually, that's not true. We can have juvenile detention, we just have to keep them separate within Socorro. We cannot expect our police officers to be transporting juvenile detainees to Farmington. When that takes too many people off the street. So there is funding available. There is things that we can do. We can work with the county. They already have a detention center that they can have a juvenile area. It doesn't have to be state run. So that is one. Two, we do have to have opportunities for the youth there, and if they are making those mistakes and they're not following through with what they need to do, then there are those consequences. They cannot continue to follow through with those privileges.
Thank you. Marianne?
I think giving them incentives, making them accountable for their actions is going to go a long way. I think collaborating with the county, the city and the county collaborating together to have a juvenile detention center.
Mr. Mayor, do you have support for a juvenile detention center in Socorro?
We do not. We don't have the money to run one. We don't have the money to staff it. We do have to transport people, but I think it's family, faith, friends. I think the family has to be the one that gets with these juveniles. We have to make the family accept the fact they're minors. They have to stand behind us as authorities to say that this young person is breaking the law. We don't have that. We have the family saying they're angels, they're not a problem, they keep them out of school, the truancy laws haven't been, followed. We have to have the churches step up, and then we have to have their friends that give a peer pressure. I can't socially engineer things as a municipal government. We can support things that we can budget for, but at this point, we don't have the money to do a juvenile facility. We don't have the money to put everybody in jail, because then the county is going to charge the city $100 a day just to have them in jail. That's thousands of dollars that eventually we don't have in our budget unless we raise taxes. But I think the social fabric of our society is broken down. There's no question about that. And that comes from the family, it comes from the church, and it comes from the peers rather than the municipal government.
Thank you. The Loma received quite a few responses and questions in person in regards to term limits. Jim Burleson publicly claimed, if mayor, day one, we're going to see about getting some term limits, and would work to see elected officials could only serve 2 consecutive terms. However, upon our own research, we found only 9% in the entire country of the United States local governments have limits for consecutive terms. I'd like to know if all the candidates feel the same way Jim does, but first I'd like to give Jim a minute to state his case.
So I think that term limits I think it's a no-brainer. It just gives a fresh set of eyes every couple of years on the problems that are happening, and I think that it's a great tool for the community to stay involved, right? Because right now, Ravi's he's a good man. He does good things, right? Everybody agrees that he's a good human being. And so they haven't thought that they needed to change things. I think that our opportunity to change things comes from a fresh set of eyes. And again, this is the city council's responsibility. Like, as mayor, I couldn't go in there and just hit my gavel and say, we're doing this. But the idea that we should, as a community, agree that we should have term limits, I think just gives us an opportunity to see great new opportunities that come around. And now, if we don't agree to term limits, maybe we agree to change the voting laws where it's the top 2 people that then have a runoff. Maybe you need to have a higher than 50% voter rate. So maybe term limits isn't the exact answer, but it's going to be city council's responsibility to solve this problem. My position is going to be set some term limits, man. If you can't do it in 2, let's let somebody else give it a shot. Then you can come back later. If I screw it up, come back later. If I win, Ravi, you can come back later and run against me next time.
Marianne, do you support the term limits?
I do. I feel that if you haven't been able to do the job in 2 term limits, then you need to move on. I think that term limits keeps fresh eyes, like Jim said. I think having the term limits, having the term limits for more than 8 years is more than enough. I know that Socorro County has term limits, and that's been really good for them.
JC?
I also support term limits, 2 consecutive terms, and if you can come back, then fine. But I think the bigger thing is to be able to have a majority of the vote. You know, if you can do that with 2 ways. You can have a runoff election. You can get more than 50% of the vote, or you do ranked choice voting. There's a couple of ways to accomplish that. But I do believe that the majority of the citizens have to be in line and agree that that should be your leader. You know, right now the mayor has held office with only 38% of the vote. So I think it's important to respect that and see what the people need.
Mayor Basker, I'd like to give you the last word on term limits.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Well, you got term limits for your doctor, you got term limits for your mechanic, you got term limits for the grocery store you go to, because that's been going there too long, and they're doing a great job, but we just want to go to a different one. That's not the way to treat this job. This is a job that's experienced. It's a job for experts. It's a job that if the public says they can go back into office, you can. These 3 people should have just taken 1 person to run against me if that's what they're talking about. But that's on them. That's not on me. I'm going to run on my record. I'm going to run on what I'm going to do in the future. I'm not going to give you a lot of Lollapalooza, lollipop stuff that we're going to do. This is what I can do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do with my budget. I hope each of these people have looked at the budget. Do they even know how much money there is in the city to spend? Where does the taxes come from? Where are the different pots of money you can get highway money on? Who's doing the interstate? How's that being done? All these things are coming to just a big job. It's not like the little old city that we used to have. You know, our budget is 35 million. And each of these things have to be parsed out with the police, with the fire. We have the best ambulance system. We have the best safety people in town. We have the best fire people in town. And I think that's where the municipal government comes in, to give you the basics.
Okay, thank you. Some of the questions and comments fielded pertain to candidates running for mayor and benefiting monetarily through businesses of their own or people they work for. Ravi with his hotels, Jim with his hotel, movie ventures, and possible water park, zoo, and amusement park, and JC working for Terra Jaramillo with positive outcomes. The question is, how can you reassure the voters you are using the position of mayor for the betterment of citizens and not for your own pocketbook? JC, let's go to you.
Thank you. So Positive Outcomes has never relied on city government or any contracts within the city. We have no ambition to do so. Positive Outcomes is a healthcare provider. We provide services through healthcare, and we bill insurance companies. So we have never relied on city government or any contracts from cities. So that is a huge misconception, and we have no intention of doing so.
Okay. Marianne, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I don't own a business, but I have worked for a business that I brought up from one program to $880,000 budget to a $4.5 million budget with government funding. So I think that's what we've done.
Okay. And Jim?
So I'm going to spend 30 seconds rebutting the positive outcomes thing, because what was actually happening there is that they've got they had contracts with the school board, with the schools, and they ended up losing those contracts from overbilling and not providing services. They couldn't do that thing, so they're going to stack the school board. Then what's happening is that every legislation that Tara Jaramillo has sponsored has been early childhood development stuff that they are hoping to implement into the city of Socorro with this stuff like our Finley Gym program and things like that. So it's dishonest to say that there's nothing that city can do to benefit positive outcomes when those contracts are going to come directly through the mayor's office. So. And then as far as my stuff goes, my plan is I'm going to be mayor for 4 years. Hopefully the water park is going to be there by then, and everybody can live happily ever after. It's going to be owned by my investor. I'm going to absolutely run that sucker, and I'll be out of office quicker, and you can say, get the hell out of here. So I don't have any desire to stay mayor. I'm going to build a manufacturing plant. I'm going to build a water park, and I'm going to continue to make movies in Socorro.
Hey, JC, do you want to rebuttal on that since he alluded?
Sure. So, just for clarification, the school board or the school contract was not canceled by the schools. It was actually closed out by positive outcomes based on a business decision. That is false, and there's a letter to the school that shows that. So maybe do some better homework and look into things before you make accusations. Also, the mayor, the city council has never signed any of our contracts. We do contract with early childhood and education department from the state to provide community-based pre-K services. And anybody, that's an RFP that anybody can apply for.
Okay.
So no, that's not true.
And Mr. Mayor?
Well, you have my wife out there. I'm actually losing money because we built a convention center, and I've got a convention center sitting at the Best Western that's empty. So, I'm not making any money being mayor.
Okay,
Except
thank
I
you.
do get a salary, though, by the way.
Okay. It's the law that the mayor must reside within limits of municipality. The question of residence has been a hot topic in this election, with some of the candidates in this election being accused of not living within the limits of Socorro. Rumor has had it over the years that our current mayor actually lives in Albuquerque. Marianne lives in Limitar. JC lives in Los Lopez, and Jim lives in the county outside city limits. There's no doubt in my mind each person on the stage would sincerely like to serve as our next mayor. True or not true in regards to residents, is this a law that needs to be enforced? Couldn't someone who serves and lives on the edge of Socorro still lead and represent the city? Let's go to Marianne.
Well, as far as me living in Limitar, I don't. I live in Socorro, and the election is for the city of Socorro, so why would we want to change that? Nobody says that we can't live in one place, and I live in Socorro, but I have a farm in Los Lopez. My son lives in Limitar, and we own property there. So nobody says that we can't go and spend the weekend somewhere else.
Mr. Mayor, today I also heard that you live in Florida.
We saw.
So,
pretty-
which is it, Albuquerque, Florida, or Socorro?
Yeah, it's Socorro.
Okay. JC, you've been attacked by Jim online saying you live in Luis Lopez. What's your story?
So I've always lived. I've always been registered. I've always lived on Reservoir. I do have a farm where my horses are raised. It's no secret that my daughter is very involved in rodeo, and if that area of town was zoned for agriculture and livestock, we could have horses there, but we can't. So, I live here in Socorro, and I intend to continue.
Jim?
All right, so first of all, the law is very clear, and it says, it was written in 2021 when the Democrats wanted to make sure when they rezoned everybody and they redistricted the entire state so that they wouldn't be opposed by sitting Republicans, they wrote a law, and it says, you can only have one residence, and then there's a period after it, so that's the end of it, right? You can only have one residence. And so I tried to present that to the judge, who actually has two residences, so she dismissed the case, okay? So there's a problem here with that situation. Also, JC, everyone knows you live in Luis Lopez. You got served in Luis Lopez in your chones. It was right there happening. So the issue is that you live there. Do I think that you shouldn't be able to run for mayor of Socorro only based on the law? I think that people that live in Santa Casia, Escondido, Limitar, Luis Lopez, San Antonio, they all pay Socorro taxes. They should all be voting in this election. They should be involved in the Socorro co-op conversation. These are people that should be considered for their rates, their utility bills. All these people are our family. They should be able to be in here. As far as me living in the county, I don't. I live at the end of Cuba Road, which is in Socorro. I registered to vote when I bought the Valverde, at the Valverde, because our kitchen burned down, and we were remodeling that. So I was at the Valverde at the time. I got mail at the Valverde. That was it. So I live in my house. I'm registered to vote at the Valverde. Technically, they could have challenged that, and I would have had to prove that I lived in the city, even though my voter registration wasn't the same. So anyway, that's the issue. I think that everyone from San Antonio all the way to Santa Casia should be Socorro.
JC, rebuttal?
So the judge was clear. She's already issued her order. The only thing that I don't know where he's getting his information from, but I was served with his lawsuit at work, which is right across from the police department. I don't know where he got his information. I was served anywhere else, but that's false. So
Everyone knows you live in Luis Lopez. Everyone. You don't have to lie about it anymore. You pass the judge. Just go with it. Just tell the truth right now, though.
Thank you. If elected, who will you bring in to fill the 4 top administrative positions? City clerk, city treasurer, police chief, and fire chief. Marianne?
Well, because I'm new, I would be the first woman mayor. I would be shooting myself in the foot if I would replace anybody at that moment. So for right now, no, I would not do that.
JC, would you replace anyone?
So just to be clear, there's 3 positions, not 4. The fire chief is a protected position. But no, the city is operating, there's knowledge there, there's employees that are there. We've got to figure out where things are at and who's doing what.
Jim?
Yeah, I think it would be foolish to go in there and just start burning stuff down. I think that we need to recognize who wants to stay in their jobs, who wants to be given some opportunities to extend their terms. I think that, the police chief, I think the fire chief, which is protected, but we also, there's other members that are at City Hall that have protected jobs too. All those things just need to be addressed in the budgeting. I think that as a community, we need to get together and talk about it. But again, this isn't a mayor thing. The mayor doesn't just come slam his gavel down and I'm going to just do this stuff. City council is supposed to be empowered to do these things. And I think that as a leader of the city council, as far as the leadership position goes, that we should be encouraging those people to get involved in these conversations. So does there need to be some changes? Absolutely. But I'm not going to just start replacing people willy-nilly. I think that our gas company is being run by the right guy. I think that he's got it figured out.
This question is
what about
based.
me?
I figured you probably won't.
But I want to tell you that you can't change it willy-nilly. And when I came into being the mayor, there was a policy where they would clean house. People don't remember that. This is 1990, but they would clean house as to who was supporting who. We put in a personnel policy that would protect people, and except for the 3 positions. And even those 3 positions, once you get past the formation of your government, which is I think 6 weeks. Anton, you can help me with that. But you can't just change people. I will keep the same people, by the way. But I'm just giving you some background as to what they're saying, which they don't have any knowledge about. Is that's what they used to do, and you can't just change willy-nilly because there is a personnel policy that protects them since 1990.
Yeah, because that was leading into my next question, actually. Is this a common theme we have heard throughout this race is that if you are not reelected, that city workers will lose their jobs and programs receiving funding through the city will lose their resources and get scrapped. What are your all's thoughts? JC?
So that is a common theme, even being out there and hearing from it, hearing from citizens. They have this belief that their job is on the line. And no, there are a lot of protections. There's protection from state law. There's protection with city policy as well as the other governments. You cannot have political retaliation and have your job taken away. So that is not true.
Mr. Mayor, what are your thoughts on this? Because this is basically coming.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've got a personnel policy. I think, it's like me, and I'm not going to stop practicing medicine. But, if I'm not practicing medicine, the patients are going to find somebody else. And I think the same way with the employees. I think they love the city, they're vested in the city. They built 90% of the city, including the soccer fields and the convention center and the lines that they put in. They're not just going to leave. There are some people on the verge of retirement. I can't speak for them, but I think they love the city. They get a good salary. They got a great retirement. They've got good medical benefits. These people are going to be able to do a great job as mayor. As far as the basic people that are working there, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, I unfortunately, I don't have anything. I think we're all in agreement.
It sounds like, everyone's in agreement on this.
We're all grown-ups here.
So that is a fear we could put the rest, that if the mayor is not reelected, people will not be losing jobs. And is that the agreement?
But I do want to say that we won't condone incompetence, and I don't think that's happening now. I don't think that that's what's happening now, but we will not condone incompetence, and I'll work with the city council to make sure that we address those concerns.
Thank you. Okay, next. Communication is awful in Socorro. How can citizens find out what's going on? Why do we not know what happened with the shootout near College Avenue a few weeks ago? And why do we have to rely on gossip and word of mouth to know what's going on? I shouldn't have to find out what's going on in a town I pay taxes to through a social media and gossip site. Jim, you just had a strong reaction to that, so I'll go to you.
So the Socorro Safety Watch page, we created a long time ago. We had a lot of people complaining about bad police officers in town. So I was making an opportunity for citizens to reach out to me directly so that I could then contact, whether it be state police, the mayor's office, the sheriff, whatever it was, that I could contact them directly so that they didn't have to engage in that and worry about retaliation, because frankly, I don't care. They can come after me. They can kill you, but they can't eat you because that's illegal, right? So what I found out is I have found out so many people are interested in solving these problems that they needed a place to go. And right now, the biggest concern that they have is there's no way to look for the blotters. They don't get the blotters for months at a time now sometimes. So I want to coordinate with the newspaper, and I want to have somebody that's job at the city is to just go in there and grab it and find out what they need to do to take it to the newspaper even. And they're just, I think that if we could get some kind of coordinated effort to make sure that the information flows, that we'd be in a good position. What we don't want to do is allow people to use the gossip and everything else to formulate their own opinions of what happened. We absolutely should let this stuff happen. And people get mad when we pull posts down from the Safety Watch page when we found out who it was they were looking for, because at that point, then we have to leave it up to law enforcement. And I think that people are starting to understand it.
Okay, JC, I see you kind of nodding your head over there.
So it does have to be collaboration. I think we have to be looking outside of social media because there is things like Socorro Safety Watch. And I also had seen a post by the mayor saying things were safe. But that is on social media. That was on Facebook. I think a lot of what I see or what I hear is people that don't use Facebook or they don't use social media. And so now being able to expand that, if it's going to be a website, if it's going to be the mass calling system or mass texting system, making sure that they know how to access those systems is going to be key.
Marianne?
I think we already have a texting that we do for the utilities and stuff. I think implementing something like that to where they would get a text on their phones would benefit the city or the citizens.
Mr. Mayor?
But we have a Socorro app. I don't know if anybody's picked that up yet, but you can put a Socorro app. You can ask questions. We have the robo system. And then it wasn't on California Street. It was on Bullock. And there was one at Mariposa. And both of those were SWAT situations. We collaborated with the state police. Nobody was shot. Nobody was hurt. It wouldn't happen in Albuquerque like that, I'll tell you that. But I put that on social media myself after the situation was over. So I'm not sure exactly what we're getting this person talking about California Street, but the situations are on Bullock and in Mariposa. But the bottom line is we have the people get on the icon for the city of Socorro. You can ask questions. We'll answer those questions. We also send out robocalls. We had an industrial park water well that went down, and people started saying we don't have any pressure. I responded to that as quickly as I could. So we have connections, but you're right, it's difficult to get information. Some of that information, if it's not been legal, you can't just divulge a lot of information either. That's the other thing the police can't do.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not excited about asking this next question, but it was something we got several times in different ways. So here we go. I watch the city council meetings online, and I'm blown away in how they are conducted. The mayor is a bully. The council is yes people. If he doesn't agree with people, he shoots them down. If elected, will you give the council the authority they should have, or will you act as the boss of them? So, Marianne, how would you conduct yourself as mayor to your council?
I would conduct myself as their partner instead of their boss, so they say. I think collaborating with the city council and making sure that they have access to everything that the mayor does is very important. So I think we work well together as a council.
Jim?
Yeah, I want to empower the people. I want to make sure that people are voting for the city councilors that they know are going to represent them. I think that representative is the proper term and not leader. We aren't electing leaders, we're representatives. And I think that as the mayor, all your responsibility is to kind of funnel it all together and let city council do what they're elected to do. So my idea is that city council is going to do their thing. Now, I watch city council meetings too, and I don't get a whole lot of bully from that, but I do know that there's several people that rely on the mayor's opinions as opposed to creating ideas outside of the box, so that they're not willing to explore those ideas. I want to make sure that we're exploring those ideas, guys, and I think that you guys should be the ones making those decisions, with city council the ones who signs the paper.
Mr. Mayor, your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, well, I think I can tell you that Mary Ann came up with a business about doing 32 units. We supported that. Michael O'Gean will come up with things about the soccer fields. We support that. There's people that come up, I'm not sure if bullying is what they're talking about. My story is that what Ted Turner used to say, lead, follow, or get out of the way. But that's what we do at the city. And just because we're all congenial and we don't start yelling and screaming at each other, and I try to lead the issue, that if they consider that bullying, I consider that leadership. I'm not sure exactly how they're saying. The council has the ability to stop me at any time. We've had more votes on this electrification and clarification of that. Every time they've asked me for something, I give that to them. And if that means that we're just trying to lead that issue with their joining us, it's called that bullying. Well, I'm not sure that's what it's called. I think it's called congeniality and working for the city in the same direction. I know the co-op doesn't agree with that because they've got their own direction they're headed to.
Okay, thank you. And JC?
So the mayor and the council have to be able to work collaboratively. The city council has a lot of power. They have a lot of authority, and they have to take that authority seriously and take their position seriously. I will tell you, as far as watching the city council meetings, they move very quickly. There's a lot of quickly move and motion to approve, and they'll put an ordinance number or a resolution number, and we don't know what's happening. And so I think slowing that meeting down a little bit, being a little more transparent to the people so they understand what's happening with their representatives, what they're approving, what they're talking about is going to be key, because there's a lot of times that you have to go really dig in to see, well, what was that resolution number? What did they just approve? And I think slowing that down and opening up those meetings so everybody's working together.
Thank you. We have one last question before we're going to do our closing statements. So only one person on the stage tonight will be our next mayor. Will you support the winner? And how will you continue to help your community if you are not elected? Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, no, the mayor doesn't, it used to be that the mayor took office the next day. That was in March when we had the March elections. The mayor doesn't take office till January, and I will be more than happy to transition anyone, if I'm not elected, into that position. I don't have a problem with that.
Jim?
Yeah, I'm encouraged by the openness that the mayor has given me. I told him, I'm like, look, I'm running. Would you be willing to take a call for me? Because let's be honest, he is the most experienced mayor that we have on stage, right? He's the most experienced man up here. He can solve problems in his sleep that it would take me a week to resolve. But if there's an emergency, I know he loves the town. He's going to take my call. I think that Mariana is a wonderful human being. I think that her ability to run the housing authority with all the things going on she's an incredible person. I would support the heck out of her. JC's as smart as anybody I've ever known. I don't want to say a bunch of nice stuff about him because I'm supposed to be mad at him, but he's brilliant. And I think that him running the city, I don't think we would have a lot of problems until Terra Jaramillo got involved, but that's a different story. But JC's brilliant. I would support the heck out of him. So.
And Marianne?
And I would support all of them. I've grown to know Jim. I've known JC for a long time, and I've worked with the mayor for the last 12, 13 years. So I don't have a problem working with none of them.
So I strongly believe that if it's the people's choice, that's what we have to support. I've lived here all my life. I want to see the city succeed with whoever's in that role, and continue to support them. I'm sure we could probably partner. There's been a lot of ideas that have come up that I'm sure that I would like to be able to collaborate with them, and hopefully that they'd like to do the same with some of the ideas that I've brought forward. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, candidates, you will now be given 1 minute each to make a closing statement. Now's your time to make your final case why you are the right choice for mayor, and we'll start with you, JC.
Thank you. So I want to thank everybody that put this on. I want to thank everybody that's here watching this as well as watching online. It's been an amazing opportunity to be running for mayor. I ask for your vote on November 7th or anytime during this week. We have our only Saturday open on November 4th. You can vote at the county courthouse. So please feel free to reach out. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as my website, jctrujilloforsocorro.com. Thank you.
Marian?
You know, Melissa, you're the one that heard me on the radio saying we should have a debate, and I'm great. This is a great time to have it, great time to talk about our city. I think I have the experience. I've got lots of projects that we want to get done, and I've got specific projects, and I want to finish those, and that's what I say. Let's finish the job. And I would hope that you would look at that and vote for the most experienced person who's going to make the quality of life here in Socorro better. It's going to be safe for your children, and the cost of living will stay down. That's what I think municipal government is here for. These other issues we've been talking about, economic development, social issues, and that, those are very tough situations, and I think in Socorro we're trying to get there. We will get there, but we've got to have a basic structure first, and I think I'm the best person to bring that about.
Thank you, Mayor Basker. And Marianne?
Thank you for having us this evening. I would like to say that I am the most experienced. I have 20 years plus working with the El Camino Real Housing Authority. I have experience in budget, utility committees, the Recreation Committee. I have served as your city councilor. So vote for me November 7th.
Thank you. And Jim?
I think I'm the most exciting candidate up here. I've got a lot of really incredible ideas, but you know, my ideas are all about me raising my kids here. I choose to live here. I want to raise my babies here. I want them to go to school here. I want them to play sports here. I want to do rodeo here. I want to make sure that they can work here. My kids are living in South Dakota right now working for plumbing companies because we can't pay them enough here. They're making more money than I am in South Dakota. I want to bring my kids home, and that's why I'm running for mayor. And then just to put some things to rest, the reason that I'm so upset with our state representative is she tried to have me fired while we're building this CTE, this thing at the high school where we're training kids. Tried to have me fired because of this whole self-defense thing, and it was just hurtful. And I think that we're doing really quality things at the school level. I think that the school board has a lot of good things going for it. So I believe that we need some change, and I think that I'm pretty cool.
Thank you.
You're the best dressed, I'll tell you that.
My wife got this for me, and I was going to just go ahead and go with it.
Well, let's give a round of applause to all the candidates tonight. Thank you so much.
They did a great job.
Don't forget, we'll be back on Wednesday at 6 p.m. for the school debate, 7 p.m. for the city council. If you can't make it here live, make sure you log in, find us on Facebook or YouTube. Also, join the conversation in the chat. Thank you, audience. Don't forget to head out and vote November 7th.